So this is the third section, Empower, and I really hope that before you've watched this, you've looked at some of those little stories of those women leaders talking about either their own story of shame or just how shame works out in young people's lives, because this section really is about recognising shame, and this is potentially really, really tricky, but I think there are some very practical things that we can do to help give a language for the girls to talk about the feeling bad, feeling not good enough, feeling that nobody cares about me, that I'm a bad girl, that what I've done defines me as a bad person. We need to help give girls language to be able to talk about this, but we also need to make sure it doesn't stay there, that actually they hear the truth about who they are. So the first part of recognising shame is actually very, very practical. It's back to our emotions again, handling difficult emotions. And so I remember one vivid memory I have of a shameful situation, which actually in the whole scale of things isn't a big deal, but I internalised a lot of shame. I was about 10 or 11, there was a boy in the school that I really fancied. He'd come round to my house for a play day. I'd fallen over in school that day and had massive plasters on my knees, and my mum had given us cheese on toast, and I remember vividly my mouth full of cheese on toast, and we were playing some kind of silly game, and this boy leant over and rubbed my knees for some reason as part of the game. And it was so painful, that full mouthful of cheese, I opened my mouth and all this sort of soggy cheese on toast just sort of fell out down me. Now, I laugh about it now, but I have a vivid memory of just being utterly humiliated. And what was I feeling? In my body, I was feeling probably hot, embarrassed. I would have gone very pink in my cheeks. I'd have wanted to get out of there as quick as possible, because this is just a horrendous situation. What was going on in my mind, where my thoughts were going, Rachel, you're an idiot, you're stupid, he's never going to like you now, you're rubbish, you're a waste of space. Like, all of these thoughts invaded my mind. That's what shame felt like then. So it's really important to help young people sometimes identify what they're feeling. And so very practically, when you feel anxious or stressed or a bit shameful, what does it feel like? Like you feel a bit sick, or you want to get out of there really quickly. What are the thoughts that are going around your mind that get stuck? I'm rubbish, I'm rubbish, I'm rubbish, I'm rubbish. And helping girls identify this is a way of beginning to take some control. So once we've identified these feelings, these thoughts and these feelings, we also need to be able to make sure that we help girls then recognise what might be some of the triggers for this. Now this is where it gets potentially quite difficult, isn't it? Because we don't want to open up a conversation where we say, right now, let's say all the things that make us feel bad. Because actually some girls will have things in their life that are profoundly private and very concerning and potentially damaging, but we want them to be able to talk about it, don't we? We want them to find support and care and love and protection. So it's very important that we create a very safe space, and we regularly say, there might be some of you who want to say things that you don't want the whole group to hear, but you might want to talk to one of us afterwards, just to remind you, if you share anything that shows that you are in harm's way, someone is hurting you, or someone else that you care for is about to be in harm's way, then we have to do something about that, but we will inform you about it. We have to be doing this as well, don't we? That's creating a safe space. But it's very important that the girls know they can talk about how they're feeling, because talking about their fears, talking about their thoughts, their stuck thoughts, talking about how they're feeling is a way that we can combat shame, because shame cannot bear being talked about. Shame wants everything to hide away, and the moment we bring the light to bear on it and the truth of who we are, then we can begin to combat shame. So as part of this session as well, leading especially to the next one, is thinking, how does Jesus deal with shame? There's that wonderful story of the woman who is bleeding, and she comes to Jesus covered in shame. The culture said, you are rubbish, you must have done something terribly wrong to have this disease of bleeding. What have you done in your past? That means you've been punished like this. A terrible culture she lived in. And she comes to Jesus and she touches his cloak, hoping that nobody will see. She's hiding away. The shame says hide away. And what does Jesus do? He heals her physically. He stops the bleeding immediately. But he also restores her. He draws her into the group. He stops her being invisible. He brings her in and says, you've got something to give. You're my daughter. You're precious. Look at who you are. It's a wonderful story of combating shame. And the psalmist says this in Psalm 31, those that look to God are radiant. Their faces are never covered in shame. Which doesn't mean that we won't struggle with shame as Christians. But it means that we know that when the voice inside us says, you're bad, you're worthless, we have someone to bring that to, who covers us in his love and reminds us that we are his daughters.